Hello everyone and welcome in MoreToChess. Today is the second day of semi-final of FTX Crypto Cup. Radjabov is currently leading and we are going to see the first game between Radjabov with the white pieces and Magnus with the black pieces. A really beautiful game. Let's start. Radjabov starts with d4, Magnus plays d5, c4, e6, knight to c3, h6. A very popular variation nowadays to avoid some heavy theory. White plays knight to f3, knight f6, bishop f4, and here black plays bishop to d6. White played bishop g3. Here instead of bishop g3, bishop e5 and bishop cross d6 is also played very often, in which bishop cross d6 is the main line. Black castles and now e3, ready to develop his bishop. Now c5. I think this is the move Magnus prepared for this game because this move haven't played till now and this is completely new position. Now c takes d5, bishop cross g3 adding some more power to the d5 pawn. Now h cross g3, c cross d4 attacking the knight, queen cross d4 and e cross d5. Here instead of e cross d5, knight cross d5 is slightly better for black, but Magnus is trying to mix things up in order to confuse his opponent. So he played e cross d5 variation. Now bishop b5, Radjabov don't want to give black a tempo move. Now knight to c6 attacking the queen, bishop cross c6, b cross c6 and white castles here. Now black plays rook e8 with knight e4 ideas. Now in these kinds of middle games with hanging pawns, white generally have to put a blockade on c5 with knight a4, b4, rook a to c1 or rook f to c1. White generally prevents c5 and here black have to play aggressively in the middle game. Otherwise these pawns will be weakness in the endgame. White played rook a to c1 trying to put some pressure on the c5, but generally instead of rook a to c1 the best response is to play rook f to c1 because in these cases white have to play queen side since black has no any initiative or attack on the king side, so it is generally better idea. Now black played bishop to g4, knight to d2. Here knight d2 is also a common idea to exploit the c5 square with the move knight b3, but it is quite slow. Here Radjabov missed the move queen to b6, attacking the b2 pawn and also pushing c5 at the same time. Instead of the knight d2 move, the best move is to play b3. After queen b2 there is no threat on b2, and then black played queen e7. After queen b6 we can just play knight a4 attacking the queen and successfully blockading the c5 pawn. Even though he trade the queens, then we take with the knight. So queen e7 here and then knight a4 blockading c5, rook a c8, knight c5 is better for white since black has no any initiative or counterplay on the king side. But here Radjabov played knight d2, Magnus instantly plays queen b6 attacking b2 and trying to push the c5. Now knight b3, queen cross d4. Queen cross d4 is a bad move because after e cross d4 it automatically puts the blockade on the c5 square, but instead of e cross d4 Radjabov played knight cross d4, which is a bad move because it allows the move c5 and loses all the advantage white have, as we can see in future. Black suddenly played c5 attacking the knight. Now knight to b3, rook a to b8. That's the whole idea of pushing the c5. Here black is giving his c5 for the b2 pawn and also some counterplay with active pieces. White have to take the pawn. Now rook cross b2, and here anyone can judge that black's just doing better practically, not theoretically. White played f3 attacking the bishop. Now bishop to f5, g4 attacking the bishop furthermore and also expanding some pawns. Bishop to g6, rook f to e1 defending the e3 pawn since it was attacked. Now rook c8 attacking the knight, knight to b3. Now according to the engines white is fine, the position is equal, but on a human level it's difficult to put accurate defense. So here black played bishop c2 putting some more pressure on the b3 knight. Now knight to b5, rook takes a2 protecting the a7 pawn, knight 3 to b4, Again, even though white is pawn down, but on accurate play it's draw, which is very difficult practically. Black played a6 attacking the knight. Now knight d6 attacking the rook. Rook d8 attacking knight. Since black's c2 bishop is also hanging, knight cross f7, rook takes c2, rook takes c2, knight takes, and now a5. Now Magnus starts pushing the a pawn, putting some pressure on the white. Rook a1 attacking the pawn, rook a8 defending, knight to d4. White is centralizing the knight, and you can say maneuvering the knight. Now a4 centralizing the king, knight d7, king to e2, knight e5, king d2, knight c4 check. White played king d3 and a3, and here Magnus again putting some more pressure by pushing the pawn further. White played e4. Now knight e5 check. Instead you cannot take the pawn since your knight is hanging. Now knight e5 check, king to e3, d takes e4, king takes e4, and black played king f6. Black also centralizing his king. Now knight to b5 attacking the pawn twice. Rook a4 check, king d5, and here Radjabov did a blunder. Now the king no longer able to stop the a pawn actively. Now rook a5 pinning the knight, pinning the king, king c5, a2. Now black's goal is to put this knight on these two squares. Since then the rook have to move, and then black will queen. King to b4 attacking the rook, but there is knight c5 check, so you have to go back. King c4, and now rook a4 check, and here Radjabov did a blunder again, king to c5. And we see how Magnus creates win out of an equal endgame by confusing his opponents. Instead of this, the best move is to play king c3, defending b3 and c2. It's also losing, but give black some amount of fight. But instead he plays king to c5, and here black played knight to a5. Since the white king cannot step down to the file, black is able to successfully play knight b3 attacking the rook and queening his pawn. So it is on this position that Radjabov resigns the game. What a beautiful endgame skill shown by the world champion. Clearly he is the best endgame player so far. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the game, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned. Bye bye.